I've always respected the DSPs. The work they do day to day is challenging, but in an environment where the individuals you're taking care for are heading up to the hospital and some are dying, and then the staff you work alongside of, you look left and you look right, and all of a sudden some of them aren't there because they're sick, and some of them are in the hospital, and some of them are on ventilators. That is incredibly challenging, and yet they kept coming back. When we shut down our day programs, our day staff were reassigned. So first of all, they were working in unfamiliar territory with unfamiliar teams, and they kept coming back. I knew I wanted to experience what was going on. I wanted to be able to, at the end of this, look in the mirror and say, I understand. And so I asked Jessica Smart, who's the vice president in charge of the ICS, I go, you know what you're doing, I don't. You get the equipment I need, let's go over there. So we drove over there and opened up our trunk of the car and put on the gloves, the masks, the face guards, the gowns, the boots, and walked in. And as I was getting dressed, I was breathing a little quicker. My heart was pounding, I was sweating, and I could feel every beat of my heart in my head. And as I looked around and watched as everybody who's coming on shift, all were doing the same thing, except they were taking care of each other, making sure everything was just right. And they were teasing and playing with each other. And I was terrified. And as the doors opened to that building and we walked in, I was totally aware that I was in a building full of COVID, both sick people and sick staff, some who've been diagnosed, some who had it but didn't know it yet. And that we had a good number of staff and individuals already at the hospital, and some had passed. And as I looked at the staff, it made me ashamed of myself because I was more afraid and I was thinking about me. They weren't thinking about themselves. They were all excited for their assignments and they were ready to go into the rooms for the people that they love. In the Commons, it's mostly people that are medically fragile. The vast majority are over 65. More than half are in wheelchairs. They all have medical conditions that put them at risk. And when this hit, we knew that was where we were most vulnerable. And so for that staff to go in there, all suited up, so uncomfortable, it truly is. And then to go in, and those people need total care. Everything is done for them in many ways. And so you're not avoiding people. You're not having social distancing. You are face to face and constantly taken care of. And because of the challenge of not having enough staff and staff being sick, many of those staff worked double shifts. So they'd start at 7 in the morning and they were going till 11 at night. Jessica, in charge of that facility, recognized right away that we needed to support more and called Marriott and they gave us an incredible deal for rooms. And so that these many of them moms, as they were working those double shifts and putting themselves at risk, after those 16 hours, they didn't want to go home and put their family at risk. And I'm sure some of them didn't want to go home and be mom and take care of laundry and all the things that moms do. And so to be able to leave and then go to a hotel by themselves and have a meal that we provide and take a shower and sleep was a little bit of support that they more than deserved, and we had to give it to them, and it held up the team. But it was incredible to me as they go to bed knowing they're coming up. After about an hour, I left the building and I was so relieved to walk out of that building, and I stripped down and put the stuff in the trunk of my car and then drove home. When I got home, I took all the clothes off of me, stripped down in the garage, put it in a basket to wash by itself. And then I went upstairs, bypassed my family, and I showered for a half hour, scrubbing myself 3 different times. I didn't want to be on risk to my mother-in-law, my wife, or my son. In our world, we count 14 days from possible infection. And so I knew every day I counted another day off. And after 14 days, I realized, okay, I'm not going to get sick. And neither is anyone in my family. At the same time, every day I was thinking, there are a good number of people working in the CILAs and in the Commons and the other ICFs where people are sick, and they just kept coming back. That clock was resetting for them. It wasn't the end. It was every time, every day, there was 14 more days, and they're working 16 hours, all suited up. They were incredible heroes. That word's used way too many times. They earned it, truly. It wasn't just the DSPs. They truly are the ones I want to hold up highest, but the Qs, the supervisors, the managers who make everything happen, and trying to keep those numbers down, they weren't allowed into those buildings that were sick. They weren't allowed into the buildings that were isolated because we wanted to keep the possibility, the numbers down, that interaction. But they did everything they possibly could and more 7 days a week. They went out and made sure that everything those people needed in the homes, everything the staff needed to have good environments occurred. They also wanted to make sure that everything that was possible to give to the individuals was given. They also wanted to make sure that the families were listened to and stories were shared because they were terrified, as you know. So they went well out of their way and above and beyond. And then finally, the exec team, the ones who understood how serious this was right from the start, more so than myself. We met every day, first thing in the morning, and we had a standing agenda of first looking at all the sites, what homes were defined as sick, with temperatures, with symptoms, what homes we were worried about, what homes were doing okay. And then we would look at supplies. And that was a battle. It's like the black market out there. Things that used to cost 99 cents, the little surgical masks now were $5.99. The N95s that are super valuable to us in doing our work right now, they're $2.95 on a good regular day, but now they're $6, $7, $8.95 if they're available. And we went from being able to use our own suppliers who ran out to having to call numbers and compete with our governor and all the other states and countries, calling places in China to get equipment and being told, okay, send a check, pay in cash up front, and we'll try to get that to you in the next 3 or 4 weeks. And when you hang up making that kind of a deal, you wonder, will you ever see it? And you look and wait for the delivery. And sometimes it takes a lot longer than 3 weeks. The exec team supported their managers. This exec team supported the DSPs. They got the supplies, the needs, the safety. We supported each other. And we listened to the families, as you know. It was exhausting. Every time there was a new sick home, all of us could feel the anxiety and the pain. Every time there was a death, we all knew that that person died alone, that the staff couldn't be with them, their families couldn't be with them. There was nobody to say goodbye. And that hurts. I know it hurts for families incredibly, but it hurts for the staff too, especially the staff that have been working with them for years. They're our family too. And yet everybody still did their job. The attendance has never been better. When this hit, there was only a handful, 2 or 3 staff, because of medical conditions, couldn't change their jobs and work in the homes. And that was supported 100%. But for everybody else, they kept coming. If we compared attendance from a regular month to now, nobody's sick unless they're real sick. We had over 68, 69 staff fall ill with COVID, many of them up in the hospital, many on ventilators. And after all that, several had to go to rehab. We had one man who I consider a young man in his 40s, healthy, strapping man, who got ill early on with COVID, was in the hospital with all kinds of supports, but then was getting better, and they were weaning him from supports. And so we were starting to count that as a victory. And then his family called, said that in the middle of getting better, he got worse. And with a matter of 12 hours, he went from doing pretty well to dying. Our staff make $12, $13 an hour, and they kept coming. They got sick and they kept coming. And when one of their peers died, they kept coming. There was a lot of beauty in this. There was a lot of challenge, but there was a lot of beauty in it. You guys, the families, were incredible. The words of encouragements, the notes, the phone calls, all supporting, with all the stress you had, to do those things, to take the time, to drop off meals, not only for your family members, but for everybody in the home and for the staff, to drop off gifts and cards. That was incredible support. I think the staff also felt as isolated as the people living in those homes, but those things let them know they were remembered and appreciated. The staff that got creative, that started parades, that were able to call ahead. When the first house had the parade, all of a sudden all the homes knew. And by the time that parade got to the next house, everybody's windows were open and they're cheering and were beeping horns. And for a few moments, everybody forgot about COVID and they were having a good time. There was a staff member whose son plays the violin, so he wanted to help. And so he would call a home, get to the home, sit in the front yard in a folding chair. All the people in the house would open up the windows and he'd play music. And it was a beautiful moment where people were sharing in ways that we had never imagined 5 months ago. The picture of COVID and Clearbrook for me that really captures it, because people say a word is, is a word, but a picture is worth 1,000 words. There's a picture that was taken of a mom and her daughter, and a love between a mother and a daughter is incredible. And I think the bond is even stronger when the child has disabilities and is vulnerable. And so you can imagine the stress, and many of you know the stress of being a mom in this situation. This picture shows the mom at the storm door of the house, and on one side is mom, on the other side is a daughter, and they're kissing through the glass. And both of their faces are smiling like it's Christmas. They're sharing love and laughing, despite all the challenge of COVID and all that isolation. The emotional challenge of this, the stress of this on everybody involved has been incredible. But also, in reality, the financial stress has also been incredible. The state has always paid us to do the basics. Clearbrook has always raised money to go above and beyond and be pretty exceptional. The cost, besides emotion and stress and sleepless nights, has also been financial. Those PPE supplies, we're not a medical facility. We had small orders prior to all this. But for this, we had to ensure that every day our staff had exactly what they needed. And in those homes that were identified as sick homes, we had to go above and beyond to make sure that we took every step to ensure the best we could that both the people living there and the people working there had every bit of protection that is possible. Well north of $300,000 and still growing. As the rest of the country flares up right now, as we try to stock up for the future, we're still stressed with trying to get enough supplies. And so that $300,000 for PPE hasn't stopped, it's growing. The staff that deserve that $13 an hour staff who keeps walking into the sick home as his or her peers can't make it anymore. We immediately decided anytime a home was sick, the people working in that home would get double time. That is the very least we could do to say thank you and pray to God you keep coming. And then those hotel nights to give people the peace of mind of not bringing the disease home to their family, giving them the peace of mind to be able to be by themselves and maybe sleep before the next 16 hours. That cost. None of those costs are in our budget. None of those costs are in our budget. And so now, as we look to the future of what this could be, I'm incredibly proud of where we've been and how we got through this. We're all bruised. We're a little bit scarred. Obviously, we get emotional. But I can speak for all of the staff. None of us would wish this to happen again. None of us would have wanted to be anywhere else except at Clearbrook when this happened. We did a hell of a job. But now as we look to the future, COVID isn't done. I'm not into the politics of this or that, but I look at the numbers. And unlike many people out in the community, we have seen the illness and we have seen death and sickness. So we are preparing for the worst because that's our obligation. We pray that it doesn't happen, and we will celebrate as hard as anybody if that's true. But if it does happen, we have an obligation to be prepared, and we'll need your help. And with that, I'd like to introduce to you David Boggs, who is an Assistant Vice President and the Director of CILA. Dave?
Thank you so much, Tony, and thank you for inspiring words about how this has gone. I want to start off by thanking all the family members for being here. And honestly, I want to start by thanking you for trusting us so much. It's been an incredible journey over the last 4 months, and by far the most difficult, challenging time of my career. And as Tony said, we would never wish this on anyone, but it's also been the most amazing time of my career. I've spent a lot of time speaking with my team, talking about how we're going to handle this. It's been a scary time. Everything's been new. We've had to change on the fly. But what's permeated all of our conversations is that we're all acutely aware that we will always remember how we acted during this time, what we did to make things better. We take this very seriously, and we appreciate your trust, the fact that you allow us to take care of your family members, especially during this time. It is something that means an awful lot to us, and we do appreciate the trust you've put in us, and we take it very seriously. I want to take a moment to thank all of those managers from CILA, my team that's here tonight. You guys have been incredible, and I want to thank you for joining the families tonight. I want to take a little bit of time with all of you to express my profound gratitude for the amazing staff at Clearbrook. During the past 4 months, I've been continually amazed and humbled by the work of the staff. Day after day, they've confronted dangers, and they've challenged us leaving of the safety and comfort of their own homes to come in and care for our family here at Clearbrook. During all of this time, not once have I had a staff refuse to help, refuse to come in, or refuse to do their duty. That's not the same thing as saying I didn't have staff that were scared, staff that are worried, staff that are uncertain about the future, staff that are worried for their families, whether it's their Clearbrook family or their children. But without fear, there's no bravery. And based on the amount of fear that I've seen, we've had an awful lot of bravery. Of that, I'm very proud. The compassion and dedication I've witnessed from Clearbrook team during this has been remarkable. I remember the very first time that we had a resident in CILA exhibit any symptoms. They were subsequently diagnosed with COVID, and we wanted to talk with the staff about, okay, this is what we've been talking about. This is what we've been preparing for. Here are the procedures. Let's put them in place. We made certain that people had the proper PPE. We made certain that staff understood how to confront situations, how to quarantine people in their rooms, make certain that we're notifying everyone and communicating with everybody. Part of it, of course, was how are we going to take care of those staff? Because they're the caretakers. Without them, everything falls apart. So as Tony spoke, we really wanted to take care of them. So when we identify a home where there's an individual who is positive with COVID, we have increased the rate of their pay. And when it happened at that first home, we spoke to the woman who was working, and she's a remarkable staff person that's been with us many years. Her name's Bola. We said, Bola, we're going to do all of these things, but in addition, I want to let you know we're going to increase your pay during this time. In fact, we're going to double it while we have somebody that's ill in the home. And I wasn't quite prepared for Bola's response. Bola was very direct. You don't have to pay me extra to take care of my family, and you don't have to pay me extra to do the right thing. Of course we did, but it was a remarkable lesson for all of us. Early on, I had another staff person that called up and said, I can't make it into work today. And we were concerned, are you sick? He's like, no, but my wife is. And she was diagnosed with COVID, and he has children as well. He immediately went to get tested, which wasn't an easy feat early on. But he found a way to get tested. He made provisions for his children to be cared for. He moved out of the family home, came back with a negative diagnosis, and returned to work. He separated himself from his family throughout the duration of it so that he could come in and be with our family and take care of us. Part of what's so amazing about that particular story is it's not unique. I know of at least 5 individuals in the CILA program that moved out of the safety and comfort of their homes so that they could continue to work with us and take care of our family. The Qs, the coordinators, the management staff. They've had their personal and professional lives uprooted to support the homes. I've asked them to change their schedules, their lives, and live their life around taking care of their homes. Their jobs have changed. No longer are they worried about whether or not somebody got their teeth brushed for a particular day. Now they have to make certain that there's food on the table. And that has been a remarkable challenge. I have sent my staff into store after store after store, which I, particularly at the beginning, considered to be a very dangerous task. But the Qs left their families and we would go after store after store. And as you know, in taking care of your own families during this, getting supplies for the home's very difficult. If you have a family of 4, you get a gallon of milk, that's all you're allowed at the store. My Qs were responsible for feeding oftentimes 24 to 30 people, which meant going to store after store, buying a dozen eggs here, a roll of toilet paper there, 1 gallon of milk at that store, and then move on to the next one and try to get that. I've had staff that have had my managers going to stores had some unfortunate confrontations with individuals because they were filling up their carts, accused of being hoarders. A lot of craziness in the world, and our folks went out there, and in the interest of helping out, they confronted all of those things. None of them stopped coming in. None of them stopped doing it. It has been incredibly impressive. In this region, I have to give thanks to the people running the show. You guys know them well. Everybody knows Ashley. She's been a rock for the department, keeping everything together. Rachel Edison, my 2 Teresas, Teresa Waite and Teresa Bien. Caitlin and Corinne have been amazing through all of this. These are ladies with families, with small children, never stopped them, came and take care of your kids and my family. Amazing people, and I want to thank all of them. Early on, I asked the Qs not to go in the homes, as Tony explained. This was not a popular decision with my Q group. They're very dedicated. They'd consider this a family thing, and this was very hard. Early on, I got a picture. There's a gentleman who works in a different region. His name is Jody. He's one of our Qs, and he's a remarkable young man. And he kept going by the houses, and he wouldn't go in because that was the rule. But he spent an awful lot of time looking in the windows and hanging out outside the window, enough so that the staff started taking pictures of Jody and sending it over. We all had a good laugh at it. We found it a little on the creepy side, but we had a good laugh, and all of the managers really picked up on it, and it became a contest. We kept our spirits up, and we really tried to do fun things. So we started having socially distant contests. Tony mentioned some of the things. We've had drive-by parties. We've had musical acts. And we did a lot of photographs of people doing goofy things, hanging out with the clients from outside the homes, just to keep the clients' spirits up as well as our own. It's been a remarkable journey for us. So I talked a little bit about the staff, the direct care staff. I talked a little bit about my management staff, but the next group I have to talk about are our residents. I've dedicated my life to working with individuals with disabilities, and they never cease to amaze me. And this has been a remarkable time. I've been impressed and amazed by their overall depth of understanding of the crisis, as well as their empathy. I thought we would have a lot of folks having a really difficult time, and some have, as all of us have had with the quarantine, but by and large, they've been great. I've had a number of them reach out and say, we'd like to do some activities, and we hear that kids aren't in school, we'd like to be pen pals to them. So they really did understand, and they really demonstrated empathy towards them, and it's just been incredible to watch. The one group I have to personally ask thanks of are you guys, the families. You guys have been subject to all of my emails that say, please do not reply. And now I have the technology to call all of you at once, which I'm enjoying, and you may not, but I'm going to continue to do that. We're going to continue to really look at communicating with families, keeping you in the loop with everything. But when I sent out those letters, every single time you guys made certain we were okay. When I couldn't get enough food, I sent out an email, food arrived at the door. When I said I couldn't get gloves, gloves arrived at the door. When I said we need variety, when I need toys, I need games, I need video games, I need activities in the homes, they showed up at the door. Sometimes in the middle of the night, staff would wake up, there would be care packages. Doorbells were ringing with no contact deliveries of food. Thank you for doing all of that. It means more than you will ever know, and we certainly could not have gotten through this without our extended family, you guys, and we certainly appreciate it. As we continue to navigate the crisis, I'm going to assure all of you that we're going to continue to use the best science available. We're going to be looking, as we have, to the CDC, Public Health, and Department of Human Services as we amend and change our policies, as we deal with the changing circumstances, and they are continuing to change. We will continue to communicate with you. We will continue to do some things really well, and we will continue to make some mistakes. This is a new thing for all of us. But when we make a mistake, we will own it and we will change and we will try to do better. We've done some fun things. We've done some goofy things. It's been hard to get through. We had some weird haircuts. Sorry about that, Sherry. But we wanted to make certain we're doing everything we can to try help people during these difficult times. I promise you we will continue to do our best. We will communicate with you. We will keep you in the loop. We will continue to amend our policies. I know many of you are very anxious for us to open up more freedoms, and we're looking at those. We have a lot of plans for how day programs will one day reopen. We will continue to communicate with you as we can do more things with families. I know that that's of primary import to all families. We're going to continue to look at that and try to get more and more freedoms safely with all of the families. But now I'd like to introduce you to somebody that I've had the great pleasure of knowing for quite a few years now. Someone I have a great amount of respect for. Someone who's been a professional on our field, who is a member of the Clearbrook Board of Directors, and most importantly, she is mother to Danny, one of the Clearbrook residents and part of the Clearbrook family for 17 years. I'd like to turn it over to Sharon Wine.
Thank you, Dave. That was so kind of you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the honor of speaking with you tonight. My husband, Phil, and I have 3 boys, and our oldest son, Daniel, is autistic. He's 38 and came to Clearbrook when he was 20. He lives at the Kennecott House in Arlington Heights with now 6 other clients. I am a parent, not a public speaker, but I will do my best to tell you about my Clearbrook COVID experience. I remember it well. It started on March 13th when our fantastic Q, Ashley Barnes, called to tell me that Clearbrook was going into isolation and I would not be able to see Danny or take him home. Danny's birthday was 3 days later that we shared with another client, and we would not be able to have his party at the Kennecott House, which we did every year. Phil and I were worried, but thought we would see how he did and go from there. Everything was going smoothly until the end of May, when we received an email from Ashley. It told us that one of the clients was in the hospital and his COVID test came out positive. I was so worried, but was told by the staff that the clients would be monitored, temperatures taken, and watched carefully. The client that was in the hospital tragically passed away, as well as subsequently a staff member. We were heartbroken. This was the client that shared Danny's birthday and also terrified at the same time. And we felt guilty that maybe we should have taken Danny home, and it was a difficult time. Clearbrook calculated the time the client first showed symptoms, and we made it to the 14th day when one client just coughed a couple times. And Clearbrook immediately took him to the hospital and tested him for COVID. And because he showed no more symptoms, he was brought back to the house. But Clearbrook was very careful and treated him as if he had COVID and had all the clients quarantined to their rooms. They ate there, they were checked constantly by the staff. Dave even had a partition built with a door so the clients would be away from all the other guys. The staff wore PPE equipment, and it came back that the client had asymptomatic COVID. The staff were all tested as well as some of the clients, and everyone was negative. It still amazes me that the staff would be willing to come into a COVID house like Tony talked about earlier. I would call every day so anxious. How is Danny? How are the guys? And be told, Sharon, don't worry, everyone is fine. In addition, as a parent, we feel that staff have been guardian angels to our son Danny and the other clients. I really can't think of anything Clearbrook could have done to keep the clients safer. But I'm so happy to tell you we are 5.5 weeks COVID-free. I want to thank Tony and Dave for doing a wonderful job communicating to all of us, either through email or phone calls, letting us know how Clearbrook is doing, calming our fears, and being transparent. I believe that's not by luck that Clearbrook, this huge organization, is COVID-free. From administration down to all the staff, they've worked so hard to keep the clients as safe as possible. I remember recently talking to a board member who was on the finance committee for Clearbrook and telling him I was so glad that our Danny could be with Clearbrook for the rest of his life. And he said to me, you know, Sharon, that costs money. But I said to him, Danny is funded by the state. He said the state does not cover all of Clearbrook's expenses. I had no idea and was totally surprised. That is why it is so important and beneficial to Clearbrook to donate and support this wonderful organization as we have and will continue to do. Any gift will help. Phil and I have participated and supported some of the wonderful fundraisers that Clearbrook has had in the past, like Friends Wine Tasting, Jelly Belly Days, the Shining Star Ball, Walk and Run, the golf outing, and many more. But they had to be canceled due to COVID, and hopefully will open up soon because they are just wonderful. I want to just conclude by telling you a short story when I finally saw Danny a few weeks ago when Clearbrook allowed us to visit with social distancing. The staff thought it'd be difficult because Danny is used to going home with us almost every weekend, and he looks so forward to his overnight. But Musalu, who is like a father to Danny and our guardian angel, called and told us to come and bring Danny's jigsaw puzzles, which he's absolutely obsessed about. We raced over to the house with such anticipation. It's been 4 months since we've seen Danny. I put the puzzles down, the door opens, he comes out, he looks so handsome and wonderful. I go, Danny, I missed you so much, I love you, I'm so glad to see you. He picks up the puzzles, he looks at us and says, bye. And I go, bye? I go, Danny, we are not leaving. You can do your puzzle right now. And we had the most wonderful visit, and he enjoyed it as much as we did. And we were so comforted to know that he was so happy as Kenny got home and stayed and just had the best time. When we got in the car, I told my husband that when it's our turn and we are not here anymore, that Danny will be just fine. What an incredible gift Clearbrook has given us. I feel so grateful and lucky that Danny is with Clearbrook. I'm sure I'm also speaking for other parents as well when I say thank you, Clearbrook, for keeping our family members safe, cared for, and happy under your continued care. And now I'd like to say thank you to everyone for joining us, and Tony has a few more words for us.
Tony, you're muted.
There we go. Sorry, that's not been my forte. I just want to say that part of the blessing of being at Clearbrook is the opportunity to be with some special souls. And I really consider Dave and Sharon to be two of those special souls. Clearbrook is a family. You've heard that a lot tonight. And for me, and for a lot of people, I think family is at their best when things are at their worst. And again, I think this has been a very challenging time, harder than any other time in my professional career. And we have been at our best. I think that we have demonstrated that time and time again, never perfectly, but doing our best and succeeding. We need your help. As I said, there's been an emotional toll and a stress on all of us, you, the staff, the individuals, but there's also been a financial toll, and we have an obligation and responsibility to be prepared for what might come. Hopefully it doesn't, but we have an obligation to be prepared. And so tonight, I think we have earned the ability to say to you, we need your help. We need to continue to be prepared, to be at our best if things begin to be worse. So I'll read what the development committee, the development department has asked me to say. And I'm asking you that you help make Clearbrook get back to square one. There are many ways you can support Clearbrook now and in the future. You can make a one-time gift. You can pledge to make a gift over the next 3 years. You can set up a monthly gift. You can name Clearbrook in your estate plan. I want to say on behalf of all the staff, all the support you have shown the staff has helped sustain us, has helped be able to maintain our level of excellent performance. We will not be able to do what we need to do without your help. And so tonight, I'm asking you to think hard and look in your own heart and reach out and help us do our job. Thank you. Andy?
Oh, sorry. Hi, everyone. My name is Andy Wojcik, and I'm the Director of Development at Clearbrook. And I just want to thank you all for joining us tonight. As you guys know, if you have any questions that pertain to CILA, please feel free to reach out to Dave and Ashley or your Qs They will take care of whatever you need. And then also, if you guys have questions at all about sharing, or not about sharing, about your donations, if you want to reach out to me about setting up that monthly gift, or if you have questions about how to make a multi-year pledge or naming Clearbrook in your estate plan, please feel free to reach out to me. There's my contact information, and I will also send you a follow-up email. And lastly, Clearbrook is hosting our second annual Step It Up for Clearbrook in September. Obviously, it's a virtual event, but we would love you and your families to get involved. This is a great way for you guys to support your loved ones. We're hopefully going to have the CILAs doing some friendly competitions, and we're happy to help you get registered and form a team. Again, thank you so much for joining us tonight and for all of your support. Take care.